We're happy to have everyone online. This is my first time doing a presentation to a virtual audience when I myself am not logging in virtually. So most of us have gathered here at Kamloops Immigrant Services, but we're really glad that that families were able to join us from your homes. I know this can be a busy time of day with kids at home, parents working, parents in school. So thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. Okay. So before we begin, I just want to do our land acknowledgement, which you may be familiar with. Whenever we do a presentation or meet, it is customary to acknowledge that we are on the traditional and unceded territory of the Kamloops to Secwepemc people. And we are very thankful and respect the people, the territory, and the land that houses our community. A little background information for you. In BC schools, Aboriginal culture and perspectives have been integrated throughout all areas of learning in our curriculum. In our district, we honor and recognize the people whose ancestors have lived here for thousands of years. We continually work towards reconciling our colonial past when many rights were taken away from the original inhabitants of this land. Today, we are a diverse population of people from around the world. For modern day Canada is a nation built on immigration, in addition to the first peoples of this territory. So moving forward, it is important that we all respect one another and work together to take care of this beautiful land that we live on. Are we jumping to slides?
Yeah. Unless it's on there. It's just like, maybe you can just say Jackson was on here.
And Justin DeVries, if you are on here, if you want to speak up, we're not sure if you have joined us yet. And in which case we will go ahead to some slides further on in our presentation and come back to some of the questions and topics that Justin DeVries, the principal, will address directly. Right. And Megan, are you wanting to?
Sure.
Yeah, let's speak to these ones. Yeah. My colleague Megan Simpson is going to take over for a little bit. Perfect.
Thank you. Yeah, so we wanted to talk about English language learning support in the school and what your child may have access to during the week when they are at school. So any student who speaks a different home language is eligible to receive extra support, help achieve English language proficiency. All students access language support in their classrooms. So this means that myself and Becky and Lori and our colleague Elizabeth are working with classroom teachers to ensure that there are adaptations happening so that your child can engage with the content along with their peers in their classroom. In addition, students may receive small group support on a weekly basis that will help develop their speaking, reading, and writing skills. And we also work with classroom teachers in schools to encourage intercultural awareness. And we support teachers in celebrating language and cultural diversity within the classroom. So finding ways that we can engage the different students in the classroom and their cultural backgrounds and sharing that information with one another if they are comfortable. ELL service is provided as a benefit and it helps students thrive and reach their academic goals and engage with the same academic content as their peers. It's also really important that our students are feeling safe and happy at school, and social emotional well-being is important for all students. So if needed and students were not feeling happy at school, we would want to connect them with supports that we have within the schools and in the district as well. We always ask families to please keep speaking your home language. Bilingualism or multilingualism, speaking more than one language is an asset, and it's a great skill for our students to have. So please encourage your child to continue speaking their first language in your home. It helps with their cognitive development, it's part of their identity, and it helps them and prepares them for future opportunities. And now in schools, we are working with teachers so that students may be able to use their primary language to access the curriculum. The goal is for them to be proficient in both English and their home language. And just so a fact is that in School District 73, there are more than 60 home languages that we have reported. So it's wonderful. It's a wonderful place in the classroom when you have 5, 6, 7 different languages, and to share that language with each other is a wonderful thing. So for families and schools, we encourage family involvement in the school community, and there are many opportunities to do that. So we encourage our students to become involved with sports teams if they are interested. If it's a new sport for them, it's not a sport they've played before, that's okay. Schools encourage all students to come out and try and join practices, and transportation to and from games is usually arranged within the school. There are also extracurricular programs after school. It varies from school to school, but absolutely reach out to your school to see what's available. There are community swimming and skating lessons that are part of the curriculum. So students, you might see permission forms coming home, and students will be taken to swimming pools or skating rinks on the bus. We encourage you to reach out and visit your closest public library. There's often programs there for youth. And then just keep an ear out for community and school events. There's usually a monthly newsletter from your principal at your school where they're giving you the highlights of what's coming up in the next month. And of course, our settlement workers in schools can help you with all of this as well and getting involved. Yeah, so has Justin logged in yet? I'm not sure if he's here.
No.
No. Okay. Do you want to do your slides, Clara? Yeah, and then we'll just circle back.
Okay. Can you help me with that?
Yes.
It's just a little.
So hello, everybody. My name is Clara Kong, and I am the settlement worker in schools at Kamloops Immigrant Services. I'm joined with my coworker, Sam Burchell and Anna Ediger here today. So we'll take turns to present and talk about the Swiss program. So before I begin, I would like to talk briefly about the Settlement Worker in Schools program. So this program is funded by Immigration and Refugee Canada, and it's provided to schools nationwide. So this means that you can access a Swiss worker in BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and all over Canada. So the goal of the Swiss program is to help newcomer school-aged children transition into the Canadian school system. So the Swiss program supports students, newcomer parents in navigating the Canadian school system. So the goal is that by the end of 5 years or a period of time, parents would be able to confidently navigate the Canadian school system. So now I'm going to shift gear and talk about the school transition timeline. So this is a very general timeline, and it applies, it would look different for different families. So for some families in their first to third year of being in Kamloops, they require more support from the Swiss program. But from year 4 through year 6 onwards, there is minimal support. And our goal is for families to eventually be able to connect independently with school staff. Oh, sorry. And then from year 6 onwards, families will be able to navigate the Canadian school system independently, and they would have formed meaningful friendships and connections to help them succeed in the Canadian school system. So now I'm gonna pass my time over to my colleague, Anna, to talk about interpretation and translation support.
Hi, my name is Anna, and I'm Clara's colleague and Sam's colleague as a settlement worker in school. And some of the Kamloops Immigrant Services provides many services. And one of them that is very helpful for school is the ability to for interpretation and translation support within the school meetings. So the way to request an interpreter or translator would have to go through the school staff for meetings with families, and also newcomer families who are participating in the link and English classes in KIS can request interpretation support to communicate with school staff through a Swiss worker. So now the next slide, I think, is Sam.
Already.
Yes, Sam is going to talk about other Swiss supports and school needs.
Thank you, Anna. Good evening, everyone. It's nice to see everybody. And welcome for joining us for our first ever event such as this. We hope that it will be an ongoing thing each year. So thank you. As you'll see on the screen, there's a list of some of the supports that the Swiss team will help you with your children in school. And I'll go down them individually and just give you a very brief description of what each of these pertain to. The first one that's listed on there, it says parent-teacher meetings. This is in a case where perhaps translation is required in the school, perhaps with an ELL teacher, a principal, a teacher, myself or one of my teammates. So we would participate in this and we would come in and we would talk about perhaps some areas that your child or children are not quite right about or feeling right about, or they need a little bit of extra care and time. It's a very interesting opportunity and very good opportunity because this allows us to learn about your culture as well as how we teach in the Canadian school system. And we combined your upbringing as well as how we teach in Canada. We never wish to dismiss everything that you've learned as a child growing up. We really wish to bring those two things together. That's one example. There are other meetings that are called between a parent and teacher, or pardon me, a parent-teacher meeting, such as a great example, if your child is in high school, sometimes, as you know, high school dynamics among children are very different than little ones. So there is a lot of subjects or areas, complications sometime with things such as bullying or conflict resolution, which we'll talk about soon. And that's also a school meeting that will be supported. Now, keep in mind that either you can reach out to your designated Swiss teacher, the EL team can reach out to us, or the school can reach out to us. Any one of us can call for a parent-teacher meeting. And if you're not too sure, just reach out to us and we'll kindly help you facilitate that. Number 2 is bullying and conflict resolution. I hate to say this sometimes happens. Eventually, I hope that is not part of our program, but it is an ongoing concern. And we usually step in as well for a parent-teacher meeting and talking about how we can move forward in making the child feel safe and want to go to school and find the good people to hang with that make him feel supported. And that usually comes in with a counselor, the teacher, and a plan also. And this could be once, this could be twice, this could be 3 times a year. We'll continue to work on it until we find some sort of resolution. The third one, which is the school forms. As you know, you get quite a few school forms. These could be things such as school trips, fees for school, maybe school supplies. They're numerous. If you are on the email list, most times you will get these sent to your email, so be sure to keep in touch with your personal emails, but some forms will still come home. If by any chance you have any problems or you're not quite sure about the form, again, reach out to your Swiss worker. You can always scan it and send it to us, and if you don't have the ability to scan, call us. We'll be able to help you with that also, no problem. Number 4, understanding the district school walk policy. Now that combines it with number 5, if you'll see with the school bus. Kamloops has bus transportation. However, you can only take it if you are a certain amount of kilometers away. For example, grades kindergarten to grade 3 is 3.4 kilometers. That means you have to walk. And nobody really goes by kilometers. For you as a newcomer, pardon me, that's kind of hard to figure out. So again, call your Swiss worker and we can figure it out on the maps. For the grades, kindergarten to grade 3, pardon me, it's 3.2 kilometers to a bus stop. So that means physically from your house to the school, you have certain amount of kilometers to be able to not take the bus, or you have to walk, pardon me, or you can take the bus or you have to walk. You can always Google that on your maps also, or do a Google from your home to the school and see how many kilometers it is. Excuse me. Grade 4 to grade 12 is 4.8 kilometers to walk to school and 3.2 kilometers for a bus. Now, I generally think, you know, if you're clever in your computer and you don't mind looking up the maps, you can do that. But in all honesty, just reach out to your Swiss worker and we can figure it out for you. The bus systems is free. You will have to go online to fill out a bus transportation form. However, we can also help you with that too. So we can print it off, fill it out the best we can, or we can send the information to the school. What happens then is the school gets the information, the bus driver will also get the information, and you will get a certain route from where you get on the bus and where the pickup is with the exact times. If you miss the bus, it will not return back to its original bus stop. Unfortunately, you'll have to find another way to get to school. So, let's see. Number 6, connecting newcomer school age students to extracurricular activities. In simple English, that means if you're looking for some great stuff for your kids to do, call us. We have a lot of resources. We also have some funding that we can apply for you. So if you're looking for things after school in all sorts of various programs such as soccer, hockey, you know, things that your children love, we probably have that information and we'll be quite happy to help you with that. Number 7, supporting newcomer students in accessing a pediatrician to verify a diagnosis. Now, this is a very important one for you to understand. If you come from another country and you arrive in BC, in Kamloops, your diagnosis is not valid here. What we will do is we will have to translate your paperwork into English, then set you up to a pediatrician who will almost re-diagnose this per se. In meaning that they will rewrite or refer you to the next person or the next doctor so that we can get the ball going for a diagnosis. The perfect example of this would be, for example, if you moved here and your child had autism and the school, you went to the school and you started school with your child, no matter the age, and you said, my child has autism, and the school will ask you for the paperwork for that. If you do not have a physical diagnosis to put in a school file, they cannot consider that the child has autism. With that being said, they will put in supports and a program per se to assist that student the best way that they can. And there is no right or wrong or length of time. It all depends on the child. Every child is different for this. Some could be taken out of a full day's class for an hour. Some students can go just half a day for school. So it really varies parent to parent. But this is a very important thing for you to understand. If you know that your child has some sort of, diagnosis from back home, or you think that there might be something that needs to be looked at, we can help you with that. It is a bit of a process, but Swiss is very happy to help you with that. So you can always reach out to us in regards to any of these sections to us. And there are many more, but these are the most important ones that we deal with on a daily basis. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
So I'd like to introduce Justin DeVries, who will be speaking as in his role as a school district principal. He is the principal currently of Aberdeen Elementary, and we see he has logged in and he's joined us. So we will let him speak to the next few slides. Thanks, Justin.
You're welcome. And I want to just apologize for my late arrival into this. Yeah, just was a busy day. And so glad that I can meet and join with you all. I'm going to have to turn my phone sideways because I actually can't see the presentation. Hopefully this works. So I want to welcome you if you're new to Canada and curious about what schooling looks like here. I've been a principal for a number of years, and especially principal. I was a principal at Summit Elementary, and am very used to having conversations with families who are from out of country. And I might be able to answer some of the questions you have about school here. You might even not know that you have questions about it yet. One of the as you can see from the slide, one of the biggest sometimes from some countries, you will come to Canada and think, oh, my child should be in this grade, or you completed a certain grade level from whatever country you're moving from. However, in British Columbia, we place children according to the year that you're born. And it's a little bit of a different way to think about school, because the year that you're born groups kids for us, and then it's then the teacher's responsibility and the school's responsibility to make sure that your child is challenged in that grade. So students don't really have an opportunity to join a higher or a lower grade because they might be accelerated or behind. So if a child was, let's say, 10 years old, we would place them in grade 5, and whether or not they were learning at a grade 3 level or a grade 8 level, you'll be placed in grade 5. So sometimes that's a bit of a shock to people who move to Canada. And you might already, well, your child's probably already been placed, but that's just a normal practice in British Columbia. And because we value, if you look at the middle box, we really value those social interactions with peers born in the same year. Here in Canada, the learning and the curriculum isn't focused only on the aspects of learning and the aspects of education, but also on development, social development. And we just don't group kids based on ability. We group them based on age. And then again, it's the teacher's responsibility to make sure that every child's needs are being met, whether your child is advanced for that grade level or not advanced for that grade level. We deal with all sorts of different abilities. Now that might change in high school, because in high school you're meeting toward the grad requirements, which are very specific, and you need to take certain courses to meet those grad requirements. So in high school, it might be that you're in grade 11, but you're taking grade 10 courses, or you're in grade 10 taking grade 12 courses, depending on what you've already accomplished, okay? But up until grade 9, usually you're placed in the grade grouping and not anything further, okay? Go ahead, next slide. Thank you. Attendance is this comes up, attendance and coming to school. There are some cultural differences depending on where you're coming from in terms of attendance at school. And the cultural differences I find come because you if you think about school curriculum, and the idea that comes to your brain is a bunch of books, okay? That a child will work through the curriculum like, oh, now next page, now next page, now next page. That is not the curriculum that as people in British Columbia see it. So your child's attendance at school is extremely important. And not only do we have laws around making sure that we are taking attendance appropriately, but your child's attendance in a classroom cannot be replaced. So if you, let's say you're leaving to go on a vacation for a week, or your child is sick for a little while, you can ask, okay, you can ask your teacher and your school for work. But most often, it's in elementary school. In high school, it's a little different. You know, the pacing and you probably do need to keep up. But in elementary school, the chances are that you will not be provided with the work that was missed, because in classrooms, teachers and students are not working on book, next page, next page, next page. Generally, you're working on the experiences of critical thinking and group work and all those kind of things, which we'll talk more about in the next slide. But your son or daughter's attendance at school is really, really important because it can't be replaced. Now, it's okay if your child is sick. In fact, please do not send them to school because it spreads diseases. But reporting that to the school is a very important thing. That collecting that data is very important. It's a legal requirement for every school. So you can see in the bottom corner there, there's that safe arrival software. Most schools send all that information out at the very start. There's an app on your phone. You can phone a phone number. You can call the school. But it's really important that you let us know every day that your child isn't coming to school. So it's very important. That's a very important cultural piece, as we have a big mandate to be able to make sure that all the kids are at school. Okay, next slide. Thank you. This slide is really further about that curriculum piece that I was saying. And so I don't know if you can tell from this graphic on the right, but it's not a lot of countries in other places focus on being able to know things and understand them too. But there's in British Columbia, there's a lot less practice for the basics of, let's say, mathematics or spelling or grammar. Or, of course, we still teach these things, and yes, they're important. But our curriculum extends beyond that into being able to do, being able to collaborate, being able to come up with new and inventive ideas. And there's also probably going to be a lot less competition inside of a class in British Columbia than you might be used to. Lots of countries have a very competitive education field where it's your opportunities are scored by testing or exams, or, you know, it's tricky for me to speak about it because I don't know where the listeners in this meeting are really coming from, but lots of countries have a competitive form of education. And in British Columbia, instead of competition, the focus is really on collaboration. And do you have the skills to be able to be a meaningful part of a group, or create new ideas, or think about existing ideas and analyze them, which are really deeper levels of thinking and learning. So you can imagine that if the focus is on collaboration and group work and critical thinking, that can't just be replaced at home. So if you aren't coming for a day, that's okay. But if your child isn't coming to school for a day, we cannot replace those learning experiences for the family at home, if that makes sense. Okay. So sometimes too, you might feel a little uncomfortable because you're used to seeing your child's work in terms of pages of information, but that isn't what work looks like in British Columbia. And you might feel a little bit strange that your child isn't coming home with homework. And that is a very normal thing in British Columbia, except of course for high school. I'm speaking at the elementary level. Okay. Next page, please. And if you're going to be used to seeing your child work at home in certain ways, then that might be a little different. But we really also report on that learning in different ways. Sure, you might see tests and quizzes coming home with a grade on them, or, you know, you got 6 out of 8 right or something like that. But when it comes to reporting to you how well your child is doing, British Columbia does not have a grading system like A, B, C, etc. We use this proficiency scale that you can see on the right here. And there are 4 different grades. And the highest on the far right is extending. Okay. Now, extendings, every school is a little bit different, but an extending, the top grade, is actually quite rare. So that is sort of kept for people, students who really have gone past the prescribed curriculum, they've shown evidence of learning deeper than expected. So that's pretty rare to do. If a child does everything and knows everything that we expect them to do, they're going to get a grade of proficient, which is you see in the third there. Proficient is really sort of like an A, if you want to think about that in the old grading system. Proficient means A, and extending means, wow, you've really gone beyond the curriculum, okay? And then down from proficient, there's developing and then emerging. And so these 4 words, emerging, developing, proficient, extending, they're used to communicate to you the development of your child in that learning. So instead of saying to you, oh, you're a C, you've got a C in mathematics, we would use language like, oh, you're developing in mathematics. So it's positive language that recognizes that every child is at a different stage of development, okay? And also you need to understand that extendings are pretty rare. Those don't come home very often, okay? So these grades come home all the time, but at least 3 different times in the year, you're going to see a formal learning update. One is before the winter break in December, one is before the spring break in March, and then one is at the very end of the year in June. Okay. If you have questions about these learning updates or report cards, then it's probably best that you contact your school, because every school in this district and across British Columbia have slightly different methods and ways, even though parts of them need to be the same. I think that might be the end of my slides. Oh, no, one more. Yes, okay. Was this talked about? Did someone talk about fees already?
We just, Sam mentioned the support that Swiss can offer if, fees come up or some paperwork comes home, but we didn't delve too far into it.
Do you want me to talk about this, or are we at a time where I?
Yeah, if you want to
great.
talk from your perspective, that would be great.
Absolutely. Yeah. Lots of times, families get a little bit surprised that they're, I mean, everybody has a different cultural background. So you might be used to paying a lot for school or nothing for school. And like the slide says, public education is free, but there are fees, like it says there, school supplies, field trips, sports, anything extra. But the thing about school supplies is you're actually responsible for your own child's school supplies. But most schools in our district anyway, we charge a fee and buy all the supplies for you because it's way cheaper to do it that way. So again, every school charges slightly different because they purchase slightly different things, but you'll pay that one fee and all of the school supplies are purchased for you. It's much cheaper to do it that way because we buy in such large volumes. Then there's other parts that are extra, like it says on here, field trips and sports and music and meals programs. And so some of those things might come as a surprise to you, and there are financial supports for those. You just have to contact someone that you feel comfortable with. As it says on the screen, you could contact your school administrator, the teacher of your child, or your Swiss worker for support financially. So we want to make sure that every child has an opportunity to learn and it has an opportunity to do all of these things, but they aren't covered under the base education cost. Okay.
That's great. Justin, do you have just a minute? We did start, so we were able to do some slides prior to you joining us. So I think we've kind of discussed the ELL role in the schools, and now your slides presented. So if there are some questions about the school information we shared with you, I think now would be a great time to either write in the chat or you can turn your microphone on. And Justin and I are both here to respond.
Absolutely, I can respond to questions. Yep.
Thank you. No.
Okay.
Okay. I don't see any questions. I think if some come up at the end, then I can certainly answer them. Or I would just recommend that you reach out to your local school, and I'm sure they can give you the answers as well. So thank you very much, Justin, for joining us tonight. I really appreciate it. And yeah, that was great information.
My pleasure. I'm so sorry again that I was late, but I was really glad to have made it. So thank you.
Yeah, that's no problem. Thank you so much. So I think we will switch back to, there is still some more information from the settlement workers in schools. So we'll continue with, it looks like Anna is going to continue on there. And like I said, if questions are coming up in your head and you are wanting to remember them, feel free to type them into the chat, and then we can address those too at the end if you just want to get them down, so that we make sure that we answer them before the end.
Yeah, so this is, we'll continue with the information about the Swiss program. This is about connecting families to community resources. So as a Swiss worker, you can contact the Swiss workers and we connect families to KIS and community resources for employment support. We talk to a family, the topic comes up about employment, we can refer you to our employment team in KIS. Our settlement team at KIS offers support with health matters. They can connect you to the right resources. Sam talked about that a little bit with doctor's appointments and pediatrician appointments. Another service in KIS is community connections. I'm sorry. Another of the KIS great resources to family activities and other events is community connections. They put out a monthly calendar with all the activities listed. So if you are not connected, if you don't receive email from community connections, you can reach out to the Swiss team and we can look after that for you. And any other needs that may arise as families transition into a new community, feel free to reach out to the Swiss team at any time. Thank you so much.
Hi there. So I'm here to talk about a program that we offer newcomer school age children, and this is the Mentoring, Empowerment, and Tutoring MET program. So the objective of this program is to close learning gaps so students can stay on par with their peers in class. So this program is also funded by Immigration and Refugee Canada and external funders, and therefore it is offered to newcomer students at no cost. There are no prerequisites for registering. However, we ask that students attend their mentoring and tutoring sessions consistently. At the end of the program, students will be able to demonstrate confidence in practicing self-directed learning. They will show their ability to self-advocate and communicate confidently in the English language, as well as to practice different social emotional learning strategies. So if you're interested in registering for your child for this program, you can always speak to a Swiss worker about this. Thank you.
Can I ask a question about the tutoring program?
Yes.
I have two retired teacher friends who are interested in tutoring. Would they contact you, Clara?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Lori.
So I think we're at the end of our information, but I do see some questions in the chat. So are you able to scroll back up the chat, Clara? Just so I can, thank you. So there is a question about financial aid and assistance. So the financial aid is different for every person. So I would really encourage you to reach out to either Sam, Anna, or Clara, and they can help kind of understand what you're looking for and then put some supports in place and work with you. I hope that's answering your question, Marianne. And I don't know. Now, the visitors and study permits and visas isn't my area of expertise, so maybe I will pass that on, to Clara. Yes, please, thank you.
So hi, I'm the settlement worker in school. So to answer the questions on visas and study permit, we're not regulated immigration advisors, so we're not able to help you with that. But I recommend if you're a student attending TRU, your ISA would be the person to talk to. Thank you.
So visa requirements for the kids age 11.
So the next question. Okay, so I would like to know the visa requirements for the kids. My kids age 11 have a visit visa. And do I need to apply for a study permit for them? If yes, what's the procedure? So with this question, it is related to immigration and we're not able, that's not our area of expertise. So I advise you to maybe speak to a professional about this.
Can they just call Kamloops Immigration and connect with one of the counselors or someone here, or?
They could, but also I think they will provide them with information on the IRCC website. But for this, it is best to speak to someone that's professional and regulated.
Okay, thank you.
So about financial aid, please help me. Okay, I think Ms. Simpson has answered that question.
Can I just add one thing?
Yes.
The Canada, usually my students who are older, of course, there used to be an office at the airport, but it has now closed because the person who was running the Canada Border Services office has retired and they have decided not to replace her. So my students who want, for example, work permits, they have to go to Vancouver now. They have to go to the border. So I think that your advice that if they are students at TRU, I think that they're advisors at TRU. What did you call them, Clara?
The ISAs.
ISA?
It stands for International Student Advisors.
Yeah, they would probably be able to give them that information. Unless they go to an immigration lawyer, but then that costs money. So, yeah, I think the resource people at TRU would probably be able to give them more information.
Thank you, Lori.
There was another question here. Is a parent able to secure a place for a school before they land in Canada? Yes. I have had in the past several students enrolled and then didn't show up for 5 or 6 months. So if you go to the school and you have all the documentation and all the paperwork, yes, they will register your children.
I think, sorry, Lori, maybe could I jump into
Go ahead.
the point?
Yeah.
So, if we backtrack to the ISAs at TRU, so these are people who are regulated to give immigration advice. So, they will be the person to talk to. So just to clarify, at Immigrant Services, we are not regulated to give immigration advice. So, going to the ISA at TRU would be your best bet. And then the next point on school registration. So I think at sometimes the school would require a full registration package with your student's study permit or your permits that have been approved by IRCC. So in a case where if your child do not have the permits to register for school, that may be one of the issues that I can think of. But if you have all of the documents, like what Lori mentioned, then you're able to register your child for school.
And you can walk, the next question was about if they arrive in Canada last week of November, are they eligible to start right away, or do they have to wait till after the December holidays? You can go into a school at any time of the school year and and you can speak with the school secretary at the front desk, and they will guide you through the registration process. And the principal will meet with you as well and give you a start date.
And the
Yeah.
sooner they start, the better. The sooner they get enrolled, the better.
Yeah.
Then they can get used to it. And November and December, they're the best, they're the funnest months because the kids are doing all sorts of, Christmas activities, because Christmas is such a big deal in Canada. And I just want to stress that in Canada, Christmas is a cultural holiday. For some people, yes, it's a religious holiday, but for most Canadians, it's a cultural holiday. Everyone participates in Christmas, even so it's a fun month to be in school.
And I just wanted to add on Clement's question in regards to his kids being in Canada. So generally, with Swiss, if you are a TRU student and you have yet not, pardon me, if you are a TRU student and you're not connected to KIS, what happens is you have to register for a client to be a client. Then what would happen is the settlement worker would reach out to one of the 3 Swiss workers and say, the client's children are coming at this date. Can you reach out to them? Then we would reach out to you, Clement. We would give you a list of the documents that are required so that you can visually see it, because it is quite a big list. And then we recommend you to start gathering them. Because of course you say, if you're arriving here in November, are they eligible to enroll to start school right away or immediately? The answer is no, unless you have your paperwork ready. If you come here with all your documents ready, that is required, then yes, you can enroll. The documents are dropped off at the school. A Swiss worker can go with the client, or you can do it yourself. They'll review all the paperwork, make sure everything is there, that you have a permanent address, and that you are in your school allocation, pardon me. And then you can start school. And for those of you that do not know what school allocation is, it's very important. You cannot live on the North Shore of Kamloops and want to be in a school far away. You cannot live
unless it's a school of choice.
Correct. And so what happens if you want to, you can look on the school district website, and there will be a tab on there that you can put in your address, and it will tell you what schools you're allocated to. So elementary school, high school, and sometimes French immersion schools. That will be your allocated school. I've had many families who have picked or not found a home, picked a school, moved here, then found a home, and they don't match. And the school will not accept you if you do not have a permanent address allocated to that school.
Thank you, Sam.
You're
I think
welcome.
the next question, Ms. Simpson can jump in.
Yeah, I just see a question about what's the registration procedure for the English class for a child. In school, if there are English groups happening within the school, the parents do not need to register their child for that. What will happen is the district ELL resource teachers, so myself or Lori or Becky or Elizabeth, we do some English language assessment with each of our students. And then based on their overall proficiency scores, we recommend groups for the school to organize and support. So the parents do not need to register your child for that. That is something that will happen within the school. But if you have any questions about that, you can certainly ask their classroom teacher, or you can reach out to one of the district ELL resource teachers as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I add to that?
Yes.
We test listening, speaking, reading, and writing. We do not claim students if they speak English fluently, but they have a very strong English accent. Say, for example, they speak Nigerian English or they speak Jamaican English. If their reading and writing and their listening and speaking is proficient, teachers might say, oh, well, I can't understand your child. Well, that's the teacher's problem. That's not the child's problem. The teacher will have to learn to understand your child because your child speaks English.
Thank you, Lori. The next question says, does elementary school include 12-year-olds? Yes, there are 12-year-olds in grade 7, and our elementary schools are from kindergarten to grade 7. And the next question, do the schools have any arrangements where my kids can stay behind after school, close to read for an hour before coming home? Every school is different in regards to what they offer for after-school programming. Many schools do not have after-school programming, and when the bell goes and the students leave the building, it is now the parent's responsibility to have something organized for their child after school. So whether that's going to there are daycares that sometimes pick up kids after school. Sometimes kids they're going home with a grade 7 student who will look after them or a friend. You have to reach out to your school to find out if there are any options for after school care and programming.
Thank you. Can I take the next question?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So how do I sign up for Swiss services as a TRU student? So it depends if you have already arrived, if you're in Canada or if you're arriving in Canada. So if you have not arrived in Kamloops yet, you can reach out to your ISA for this. There will be a pre-arrival presentation and you can connect with your ISA about registering for Swiss services. But if you're in Kamloops, you can look up the Kamloops Immigrant Services website with your intake form for Swiss support. The other option is to reach out to one of your ELL teachers who can also connect you with a Swiss worker. Thank you.
Can I just make a comment on the schools having arrangements where kids stay behind? It's very, it's culturally not accepted for parents to expect the school to take care of their children after school. In Canada, it's expected that parents pick up their kids at 2:30 at the elementary level. At the high school level, kids are let go at 3 o'clock and they have to leave the building. But what ends up happening is the principal then has to start phoning parents and phoning emergency contacts. And it was an issue last year with a couple of students whose parents were not picking them up. It's just not acceptable. You need to make arrangements for someone to pick up your children. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it looks like that's it for the questions in the chat. So I think we will end off there, but if you have any questions that come up after this, I think the best point of contact, which you would have had on the one more question, can a child be at home alone after school? Are there any age restrictions? That is something that I think I don't know of a legal age restriction. Can you speak to that? I am not comfortable leaving my young children home alone after school. I like there to be a plan in place for my children. Yeah.
There's a course that the kids can take.
They can take a course through the YMCA, and they have to be 10, and that's a home alone course. I'm not comfortable telling you that there's a minimum age that a child has to be. I think that's something you could reach out to your school about as well, or their classroom teacher. But most young children are not home by themselves for long periods of time. Yeah, in Canada.
I'm also going to add, if as classroom teachers and as teachers in the district, if we know that there are children being left home alone, especially if they're in primary school, we are required by law to report it. So I know in other countries it might be acceptable, but in Canada it's not, especially if they're under the age of 9. So I'm not saying that 9 is the magic number. All I know is that there is a course that your children can take. It's offered through the Y in Kamloops, and it's it's a stay home alone course. And I think it's free. Is it free?
No,
No,
no, I had to, we paid for my children, yeah.
Okay.
And then, sorry, one more. Will 13-year-old child be enrolled into high school or elementary born in 2011? 2011 would be grade 8, so that would be high school. Okay, thank you very much for your questions and your participation tonight. I know on the registration form and the posters that we handed out, you have the email addresses of Sam and Clara and Anna. And I think too, if it's any school-based questions, I think you can reach out to them, but you can also reach out to your schools, and you can absolutely ask questions to your schools as well. They're happy to help, and they want to make sure that you have successful transition into a Canadian school. So.
and adding on to that, please note, if you are not registered with Kamloops Immigrant Services, you have to become a client, and that's as easy as going onto the Kamloops Immigrant webpage, as Clara said, and filling out the intake form. Once that's done, a settlement worker will meet with you first, and then the Swiss team will get a referral from the settlement worker, and then we can start working with you. So if you email us and you're not in our data system, unfortunately, we have to wait until you become a client of KIS to assist you.
And also, please don't. Our students, our ELLs, overwhelmingly feel very, very safe in our schools. Today, they were commenting on how kind and accommodating and wonderful and gentle teachers are, and administrators are exactly the same. So sometimes it can be a bit intimidating to have to walk into your kid's school. You don't have to worry about that in Kamloops. We have worked in all the schools, and everyone is just so kind and loving and accommodating.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to offering more of these sessions in the future. And enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you so much.
Good night, everybody.
Great job, girls. That was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you, Lori. Thanks for joining us. Have a good night, everybody.